Yo, all right. Super excited. Shout out to Nick Singh for connecting us together.
That's the
We're doing a
guy.
LinkedIn Live today with, let me make sure I pronounce your name correctly. It's Omid Kazravan, right?
Omid Kazravan.
Oh, Omid Kazravan, right?
Kazravan. You got this, bro.
Oh, Kazravan. Okay,
Huh?
cool.
Yeah, Kazravan.
Nice to meet you, brother. Yeah, man, dude, so many comment.
Nice to
Let's talk
meet you too.
about Tony Robbins, tech sales, entrepreneurship, and like your publishing company and how you were able to grow and scale that. I think that'd be interesting for a lot of folks who are listening, who are
Let's do it.
tuning in. So
Let's do it.
first question is, what do you think about Nick Singh?
Oh my God, this guy never answers the phone. No, I'm kidding. He's a really great guy.
Yeah,
He's a mutual friend of ours. He he's just leads from the heart. Very kind soul, very charismatic. He
yeah,
is he walks into a room and you know he's in the room.
yeah,
He's just
yeah,
that
yeah,
guy. We started a podcast together, so that has been a really good time. Probably one of the most fun things that I'm up to right now. It's called
yeah.
My First Exit. We're gonna launch it on September 15th. So that has just been an absolute joy to just build with him.
Yeah. So hasn't officially launched yet.
No, we're getting our launch episodes right now. So we've had
Okay.
two really insane guests. And we're working on a third I mean, we've had every guest we've had has been absolutely amazing, but just in terms of like name recognition, we want
Yeah.
to launch with bangers and then just have banger after banger after banger.
That's yeah, I mean, obviously Nick's interviewed like Gary Vee and like Dave Asprey and like all these amazing people. So,
Lewis Howes, Casey Neistat, Tom Billio.
dude, insane.
I was actually doing a lot of cold outreach to some of our like dream guests, and I was just dropping his credibility because he has like that social proof from who he's interviewed, and
Yeah.
we don't have it launched yet, so we're like, hey, my co-host, he's interviewed the likes of all these amazing people.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool, man. And you've worked for Tony's team too, it sounds like.
I did, yeah. I went to my first Tony Robbins seminar when I was 12, and from there it was kind of like this is the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. So I told myself I really wanted to be a speaker for him, and I did that when I was 21.
That's cool, man. It's I haven't met too many people who are equally as connected, not only in the tech sales world, but in the Tony Robbins slash the life coaching world. So shout out to other self-development addicts out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think you're so compelled to like even want to do all the self-development stuff, right? Because I do think there's a certain type of well, I'll let you answer that first before I project what I think the
No,
types of people that attracts.
you should still project it because it's not going to change my answer.
You go first.
All right. Um, yeah, I feel at least the way I view my life, growth is one of my top values, and I view life as, a game of growth. And if I'm not growing, I feel like I'm dying. So
Yeah.
I'm always in the pursuit of learning something amazing every single day, week, month, year, whatever I can do to improve myself. And it's just that progress and that momentum is what really gives me fulfillment. And I love progressing and growing. It's just any way I can in any single way, I'm gonna do it. So to me, it's just like the most fulfilling part of life.
Do you also feel that people that are in this world are perfectionist or a little bit
Oh,
hypercritical of themselves?
yeah. I feel like whenever I hear the quote that's like people's dumber than you are making way more money than you, the way I view that, and I don't necessarily view people that are dumb, but I think it's just in terms of like they don't care, like they're just gonna go and rip it and just kind of make
Hmm.
things happen. While people that are like, oh, I'm gonna optimize and I'm gonna do everything the best way that I possibly can, you end up being hypercritical. You end up like looking at all your faults and all that. It's just like I look at
Hmm.
like Nicki Minaj and I'm like, wow, she's no, not Nicki Minaj. What's her Cardi B? I look at like Cardi B and she's absolutely killing it. So that's like the
Yeah. Huh.
example. It's like I look at someone like Cardi B, I'm like, I feel like I'm in a better spot, but I'm not. Financially, she's killing it. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I'm in Ali Abdal's community, so people who don't know who he
Oh,
is,
he's the
he's like
best.
he's yeah, so I'm a part of his mastermind, and I'm not gonna mention any names if in case they are listening to this. But there's this one guy who, for lack of a better word, he's just stupid. He's just not smart. Like you and I, and I'm not saying that to be like judgmental. It's just like some people are just not smart, right?
Yeah.
But you gotta respect this guy's like belief in himself. Like he walks around with a big swinging D, and dude, it's admirable because like people that are actually smart, like I would consider myself like actually smart, but you would think this guy's like you would think this guy's 100 times smarter than I am the way he presents himself, right? But I
Yeah,
what I respect
100%.
about him is like despite getting like 10 views every YouTube video, he still grinds out podcasts up or he still grinds videos every day. And I'm like, dude, but you know he's gonna get somewhere, right? Because it's like even when no one is watching or no one's listening, he's still grinding. And for me, like sometimes I'll do a podcast episode like or a LinkedIn live like this, and it'll only get like 200 views, and I'm like, oh, like I suck, you know. But it's
Yeah.
like, meanwhile, this guy gets like 10 views, and he's like, yeah, I got one more than yesterday. I got 9 views, and I'm just like, you know what I mean? So to your point, I do think there's something to respect about like people that just get after it, who like quite honestly aren't even that talented, but they just grind.
Yeah, that's the word, talented. That I think it's so true because at the end of the day, we care too much and they don't care enough, and that's where you want to be ultimately because like we're literally on a burning gas, like a ball in the middle of nowhere, just a complete speck. We're so tiny compared to the grand scheme of things. We're all gonna die. Like that's a guarantee. And we care so much. And at the end of the day, like we're all gonna die anyway. So why not maximize it? And a lot of these,
Hmm.
a lot of these other people are really killing it and just maximizing every moment they have. Got the blinders.
I feel like Nick Singh. I talked to I introduced Nick to one of my he was my old boss, but super talented, really smart guy. And we were, and he just likes playing this game where it's like, all right, let's kind of analyze like people who do you think has more potential. But he brought up Nick. He's like, hey, like, what do you think about Nick? Like, I'm like, this guy, Nick Singh, is probably the most talented guy I've ever met in my entire life. Like, he's charismatic, like, but not to sound too judgmental, but like, I don't think Nick has quite reached his full potential. You know what I mean? I think he obviously he'll get there, right? But like, if he just wants to shoot the shit, have a good time, hit some golf balls with his friends, like he'll do that, right? And I
Yeah.
respect that. But yeah, my old boss is kind of like, yeah, like I think he's super smart, super intelligent, but he's like, yeah, I think, he's probably leaving some money on the table if I'm kind of just doing a snap judgment of where he's at right now. I was like, yeah,
I
that's yeah.
I think the way to look at that is I saw something from Hormozy that said you either will be the way you spend your 20s, you will either be a unlived 30-year-old or a highly skilled um or it was an unlived, highly skilled 30-year-old or a fully lived, unskilled 30-year-old. And
Hmm,
I don't fully agree with that because I feel like I've been maximizing my 20s in a way where I'm also enjoying it and getting skills and also improving my life. And I feel like Nick is in the same boat where he's just like enjoying life,
yeah.
growing, and um, understanding that, the timing that is laid out for us, we're exactly where we need to be at the exact moment, and it will happen the exact way. I've heard so
Hmm.
many very successful people that say they're very grateful that their success took the time that it took because um, if it was to have happened earlier, they believe they would have crashed and burned because
Hmm.
they didn't have that foundation built.
Yeah, that's a solid way to look at it. I'm sure that's why Nick, both of you are doing the podcast, right? It's rare to have people that have that perspective. To your point, like I have some friends that it's like in their 60s or 50s is like when they're like finally living life, right? But then I also have a lot of friends they're the opposite that are let's just say they're still living life and they're like 40 years old and sometimes I'm like, all right, guys, like how many girls like will take how many hookups, you know what I mean? Like at some point, like I don't know, right? To me, it just feels superficial, for like a better word. But I like how, yeah, both of you guys are a good
Yeah.
healthy balance. It seems
I
like.
one of the things I love to teach is exactly that, like live your life, enjoy it. travel while you're young, because when you're older, you're not going to be able to do a lot of the shit that you're not going to be able to do a lot of the shit that you can do when you're younger. You're not going to want to do a lot of the shit. When you're older, you
Yeah.
just want to like, I mean, you're not going to want to be as adventurous. I mean, you might, but I feel like your body can take more of a beating when you're younger. So you might as well
Yeah.
enjoy life. Like I've been to 39 countries. My wife and I have been to like 25 or 26 countries together. So it's like, and we're far from broke. So it's just being able to enjoy life, make money, and just,
Hmm.
live the whole, it's not black or white. It's like, enjoy the whole spectrum that life has to offer. And don't
Hmm.
wait.
And I love that. Um, True or false, Tony Robbins is the world's best storyteller.
True.
100%. I still to this day, and I've met a lot of people in the world. I still haven't met anyone as masterful at storytelling as Tony Robbins.
Dude, he's the best. He uses a lot of neurolinguistic programming in his stories. So it's the same thing of I mean, the best way I can describe it to someone that's never seen him speak, if you ever go to a movie that you're really into, and all of a sudden it's an hour's passed and you're like in a trance, you're like, oh shit, like I'm like sitting here. That's what his storytelling is like, where it brings you like you're in a movie and
Hmm.
you're like watching it unfold and you're like, I can't wait for the next thing.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been
that's a
doing
good
it for
one.
50 years, 40 something years or something, like master of his
Insane.
craft
Who do you think is the second best storyteller that you've ever come across?
that I've ever come across. Like, famous, unfamous, just an individual person.
Yeah, I mean, it could be both. How about one unfamous, like someone who's you're actually close to, and then one person that is just you admire their public speaking skills or storytelling skills?
Well, that's dude. One of my best friends. He is a professional keynote speaker, does corporate speeches, travels the country, and delivers like amazing keynotes. So he's a really great speaker, really great storyteller as well. So I admire his speaking. We started speaking at the same time, and he just kept at it. And he went with the keynote route. I took the sales route, and he's like doing very well. So definitely him. He's a phenomenal storyteller. Who else?
What's his name?
Juan.
Juan.
Have you met
Okay.
Juan?
What's his last name?
Bandana?
Is that I think he was on Nick's podcast once, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah, yeah.
he's the shit. So
Okay.
yeah, I think I would say him.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Nick is also a great storyteller. Like his podcast, like he's the one that got me into podcasting. Like back when autographs was every time I saw one of his episodes, I'd be like, dude, like the first thing I'm clicking on, right? Like his storytelling was just hilarious. Like the stuff that
Yeah, and he would
yeah,
have some insane guests. I was like, Nick, dude, I don't know how you do it.
yeah, yeah. Um, that's cool, man. Well, so you've been in sales, you've been oh, what is something that you don't people wouldn't know about Tony Robbins that you personally have learned from him? Like the way he modeled maybe a type of behavior or something like that.
So I guess to clarify your question, something about him or something around some of the things he teaches.
Um, Maybe like a takeaway or a lesson that you've observed from being involved in his community and seeing the way how he does things.
I think the biggest takeaway is he calls it like the success cycle, and it's when you want to learn something or do something great, and it's something we've all heard, but I mean, we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. And one of the things is find someone that is already doing the thing that you want to do. Find either, if you can't afford it, like a coach. I mean, if you can't afford it, get a coach. If you can't, get a book, get a course, get
Mm,
something to put yourself um, and learn from their steps. And also, immersion is something that's powerful, and that's something that
mm,
I look at every time in my life I've had really great success. I was fully immersed in the thing that I was doing, in the environment, in the culture, in the group, in something. But
mm.
that immersion piece of it, and then keep trying. And if it doesn't work, change your approach, and just keep doing it. As long as you don't quit, you'll eventually get there. But you have to iterate.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people read a lot, and yes, reading gets you to a certain point, but there's no substitute for it seems like either people are afraid like, hey, is this money gonna be worth it? Or like I know a lot of my friends that they've been talking about things for a while, but in terms of actual execution, I mean, I think you and I have a good balance of like the learning part, but then actual like taking action. What wh- what advice would you give to people who are just overthinking things and they're just like, oh, I gotta research, I gotta like make sure I'm making the right decision. Like I have a
Uh,
lot of friends that are in that.
that's me. I tend to research and feel like I need to go and learn the thing as much as possible. But at the end of the day, you really learn from doing it. So being able to just schedule that first action and just taking it and just doing it and failing and being okay with failing is important because um, you want a failure stack, right? You want to, if someone is stacking failures, the only way that you can do that is because you've actually started something and failed at it. So there's this
Hmm.
uh what's it called? There's this story that I heard. It was like these two friends wanted to pick up fishing and they find a lake and they're like, you know what, we're gonna pick up fishing. One of them says, I'm gonna go get a rod and just start fishing, and the other one says, I'm gonna go learn how to fish. So he goes, finds a teacher, learns how to fish. Then he goes and learns the business of fishing. Then he learns how to open up a fishing shop. And then he goes and learns all the ins and outs of fishing. He comes back to the lake years later and he finds out that his friend that had already just picked up the rod and started fishing had already cleared the entire lake out. And then he was finally ready to fish after all those years. And it just goes to show that you just got to take the action and it will just, you'll like the answers will come and you'll find it. That's how you truly learn is by doing it. Like if I want to get better in the gym, I can only watch so many videos of how to do a bench press. But unless I go and actually do a bench press, there's no way for me to know the little minor adjustments that I need to make or how slow I need to go. Like it's
Yeah.
way different when you're actually doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a friend who we were talking about like just doing Molly where and he's like, I've read every article about Molly possible, like 1,000 hours. And I was just like, but have you done it yet? He's like, no. And I'm just like, okay. It's like, what? Like to me, it just didn't make any sense. Um, yeah, okay. No, that's good advice. That's a good story. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of this one study where um someone was like they did a study where someone's like painting and then everyone was like and then there's another like an A group that was like just painting and then like a 1,000 hour rule and then the other that like read every painting book and went to the museum and like studied from like the best artist and obviously the one that was like just painted for 1,000 hours like ended up being like master level painters and yeah, it's I mean, it's I think people hear that, but I bet you still a lot of people who listen to this podcast will still just over
Yeah.
research and try to find the perfect everything.
Dude, I actually have a story that hits close to home here. So when I wanted to speak, um, I wanted to be a speaker when I was 12, and I was because I saw Tony, I was like, ah, I want to do that. It's the coolest shit. And I went to his youth event. It was just a leadership camp, and I grew up there. Like I would go every summer, and that's where I met all my friends, where I met Juan. Um,
Hmm.
and I remember I was like, I want to be a speaker. So since I was 15 years old, I would always ask everyone, all the speakers, how do you be a speaker? What do you do to be a speaker? I'd reach out to the all these other speakers that I met and I'd ask them, how do you speak? I've never given a speech. For years, I would ask everyone, how do you speak? How do you do it? Like
Uh,
what, like how do you get over stage fright? And I
uh,
remember when I was 19 years old, I was in Australia and one of the speaker, I was at another leadership event and one of the speakers from the Tony event was there. And I went up to him and I was like, yo, how do you speak? How are you constructing it? And he's like, damn, dude, you've been asking me this question for 4 years. He's like, you know what? Tomorrow, 8 a.m., you're gonna give a speech. And I was like, oh shit, it's real. I started freaking out, panicking. I was
uh-huh.
like, what do I talk about? He's like, you'll figure it out, just come from the heart.
Uh,
Um, and he threw me in the water. And then from that moment, it was kind of like it was very infectious. And since then, I've given over 1,100 speeches across
oh
stages
wow.
all over the country. Yeah, it was
Wow.
like that. But that was the catalyst. Was the moment I took that first step. And then I was like,
Huh.
oh, it's not that bad.
It, so Interesting. So obviously, like, there's a huge potential in being a speaker. Why did you decide to do specifically technical sales like that?
Um, that's a really great question. That was my dream job. And the reason that I stopped doing it was twofold. Number one, I had to move every 3 months wherever he was going, Tony was going for his events. So
Yeah.
I'm a very big family guy, friend guy. I didn't have no family or friends. I was constantly on the road. We worked all the time. And any time I had, it's just like I just had to keep flying back and moving and flying. So that was a big wear on me, um, a weight. And then another one was having to sell from stage to me really killed the beauty of speaking and the art. Because while it is an art to close from stage, I get it if you're doing it for yourself, but when you have a quota that you have to hit and your number, it
Mm,
there no matter how you slice it, there's always a piece of like, I want to sell these people. So what I would do is
mm.
I would do an entire training seminar, and at the end of it, I would sell them tickets to Tony's event.
Okay.
And some days I would give the best fucking speech of my entire life. Like I'm vibrating. I was like, oh my God, I
Huh,
can't believe I just delivered that much value.
huh,
And then nobody would buy a ticket. And I was like, fuck,
huh.
And I would give like 3 or 4 of these a day. So it really kind of killed speaking for me versus like someone like one of my best friends, Juan, he's the keynote speaker. So he closes the show, he goes, he delivers his talk the way he wants
Mm.
to, provides value, and then dips and gets paid for the hour. So
Uh,
like that right there is, I mean, that's like the way I viewed speaking. So it kind of like killed it. And then the reason I came to tech sales was it's just I've been in sales my whole life, and the concept of selling remote was amazing. I love being home. And then being able to sell larger contracts, larger deals, and just the quality of life, benefits, salary, all of that. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
hmm.
Because a lot of my sales jobs I've been in, I mean, it's been 100% commission.
Yeah, I mean, something I've taken for granted being in tech sales for 15 years. Like, you're just like, oh, yeah, amazing world-class benefits, like, having pretty much like ridiculous amounts of perks that now that I'm not in that world, I'm like, oh, okay, like I should have taken that for granted. Um, Interesting. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about coaching as well. Like when I was just coaching and like doing it, just getting better at the art of coaching, it was amazing. I loved like every second of it. But once it was like my livelihood, and I'm like, oh, like my life, literally me being able to pay the mortgage, so my wife doesn't leave me and all this stuff depends on how many coaching clients I have. It definitely took the fun out of it, right? Because I'm like, oh wow, if I don't have like a certain amount of clients, like I'm not going to be able to pay for my Tesla and like all these other things. And so now like I'm getting back to more of having fun again and just like the art of coaching again. And like now I'm like, okay, like this is fun again. So yeah, it's interesting how anything you make into a career, it ends up being like, oh wow, like there's like pressure now. That's how I feel about a lot of these self-development programs as well. I know with Landmark, like everything's measured because of performance, and they want to see who's like
hmm
who's the best enrollers, who can sign up more people to like these Landmark programs. But it really took the fun out of it for me, and I still do it because like at the end of the day, it's causing like literal transformation within
Yeah.
people. But once it started becoming about like Team New York versus Team Montreal versus Toronto versus like it's like that's when I was kind of like, all right, guys, like, is this really like where we're focusing like 100 hours a year on? It's like, come on, So
Yeah.
that kind of jaded me.
Qu- I mean, quota really takes magic out of anything, an implied quota. I feel like when you're working and doing your own thing, really enjoying it, and you're like, I don't need to sell. Then you sell even more because you don't have that need. And at the same time, it's just like there's not that pressure. But of course, you got to be in a great financial position where you're like, I don't really care if I close this or not.
Yeah, yeah. It's like everyone knows they sell better when there's less of that pressure, right? And yet every 99.9% of orgs still have this quota, right? So it's like, I don't know, is it one of those cases you think that it's like, hey, because we've done it in the past, this just is how it's done, right? Because I think
Yeah,
everyone can agree that like quotas aren't very helpful, but it's every organization still has it.
yeah. I feel when you have like at least I look at like the things that I've sold. So for example, selling for Tony Robbins, that was the hardest shit I've ever sold in my life because it's like I'm going to business owners and I'm saying, your life sucks. Here's how you improve it, essentially in my
Yeah.
speeches.
Yeah.
So I'm selling something that's not even tangible, just like a transformation
Right.
versus selling software it's a business use case that you can build and prove and match and it makes sense and it's logical and you could make that sale. I feel like that's why there is that little bit of a quota because I feel, even though you have the pressure, like you can make it work by being like, okay, here, this fits you're asking the right questions and this fits your plan. Um, like you can, it's more logical. At least I've noticed in the sales.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've sold mostly like more intangible things like coaching, training, and leadership development. So I totally get it. But yeah, I think selling coaching is probably the hardest thing I've ever sold, right? Like even just selling. But then once I because we everyone who's in the self development space obviously sees the value in it. That's why we paid an insane amount of money compared to like the average person. Like most people would be like, "Wait, what? You paid how much to attend a what? A 3-day what?" Like, but yeah, it is tough. But once I repackaged my coaching as like, "Hey, I can help you land a job in tech sales," which the average AE makes like 150,000, when maybe they're in retail sales and they're making 85,000, then it became a lot easier to sell, right? Because it was like, okay, well,
Yeah,
this is a little bit more.
transformation.
Yeah. Hmm. That's cool, man. Would you any teasers as to which guests you plan to have or are having or you've had on your podcast so far?
Um, we are interviewing a billionaire tonight. So that's exciting. And we have interviewed
Wow.
some yeah, some really insane founders. I mean, I remember I don't want to drop his name until we drop the episode, but like I've been following this guy for God since I first started getting to like marketing 10 years ago. And he's the goat of God of marketing. And I couldn't believe we even landed this guy as a
Wait, Seth Godin?
no, close. Um,
Okay, okay.
close at his counter. And it was just when we were on the call with him, I was like, holy shit, this is like this
Wait,
is
Ryan
real.
Holiday?
No.
Damn, okay. Because I'm trying to think who's like the best marketers. I remember, yeah, when he was working with Tucker Max, I remember they were like killing the game.
Dude, this guy is so dope. I was one of the coolest conversations I've had. It completely shattered a lot of the way that I view business hearing it from this guy because he's absolutely killing it. And he's so humble, so nice.
Really?
Um, yeah,
Jay Abram.
no.
Okay. Damn it, now I have to wait. What day are you
We
launching that episode?
um we're launching September 15th.
All that like a bunch like back like
We're
bunch at
launching,
once.
yeah, we're gonna launch with 3 episodes.
So you know what you're doing. That's how you're supposed to do it. Like the
Yeah.
pro. Yeah.
We have a bunch of so what we're doing is our outcome with our podcast and the way that we built this is we don't want to be another interview show per se. Our goal is to make a friend. Um, so at the end of the day, we just want to have really great conversations where it's like, okay, this is someone that we can make a friend, go to the city, hang out with them, because ultimately um, I mean, that's Nick and I just really love having high quality, good conversations with other people that we're interested in learning from and just making friends with. So it's just like we're using our podcast as a platform to make these awesome friends. So like this guy is now a friend.
Yeah.
And when we go to
That's
his
cool.
city, we're gonna hit him up. He drives a very like fun car. I'm not gonna say that it was in the episode. So we're gonna find a way to like rent that car and go pick him up in that car.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I know we keep talking about Nick Singh. So for those of you who have never met Nick, this guy, he came into the LinkedIn office in the Empire State Building, like Just super funny, like being everyone's best friend, like schmoozing in his way and like getting people to girls to giggle and smile and like just going up to random people, taking selfies with them and in the elevator, like having deep philosophical questions with random strangers in the hallways. Like Nick is an interesting dude. So we'll have to link Nick's bio if you guys want to if you guys want to reach out to him. He's a good dude, man. I'm glad he
Yeah,
connected us together.
he's dope. Actually, the way we met was I was at a Tony event and I was working this event, so I was like fully suited up and everything, and he was just like, he literally just came up to me backstage. I wasn't backstage. I was like where all the volunteers are. And he's like, my God, dude, you look great. He's like, why are you all suited up right now? And he was like, my name's Nick. And he just started talking to me. I was like, what the hell? And then I found out he lived in Toronto and he was
Yeah.
young. And I was like, oh shit, I'm young. And my homie lives in Toronto. So I
Yeah.
introduced them and they immediately started to hang out. And then we all started to hang out and just go on trips
Uh,
together and just, yeah. Um, he's a dope guy. I feel like one of the biggest hacks in life and something I feel like I have a really unfair advantage in is surrounding yourself with high quality people because the quality of your life really comes down to who you surround yourself with,
yeah.
conversations, the experiences that you can have, the amount of money that you can make. And one of the biggest hacks is literally if your life sucks, go find better people to hang out with and your life will improve. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. That's why going to these self-development conferences are a game changer, right? Because I didn't know there were people who grew up like pretty poor. My mom does nails, my dad is a um works as a bartender at Benihana growing up, right? So like my idea of like success was a lot different than the people in these communities that you're talking about. And then I hang out with like people at the self-development communities and they're like, oh yeah, I just got back from like a traveling to 30 countries at this last year and like and I'm like, oh cool. And they're like, yeah, like you want to crash at my boyfriend's place? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I go there and it's like a freaking mansion that has like $1 million wine cellar, and I'm just like, what is going? You know what I mean? So like your world just
Yeah.
completely changes, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go on a 16-day solo road trip and like drive to Montreal by myself and do all this different things, and it's just like, yeah, your life changes a lot once you surround yourself with different people.
Yeah, dude, it's like your point. It's you get to see perspective and you get to see opportunity and you get to see what is actually possible. I never
Yeah,
knew tech sales was a thing until
yeah,
um I was like on TikTok. So exposing myself to different information. My whole TikTok is like educational content and
yeah,
sales content. And someone's like, oh, talking about tech sales. I was like, damn, this is a thing. I've been in sales for 10 years. I never knew this was a thing. And it's like
yeah,
how do you learn about things like this, opportunities, unless you know someone, have conversations, or reading books, or in these forums, Reddit, somewhere like
yeah.
it's just learning. So powerful.
Shout out to Reddit. So Reddit is actually how I found my confidence in as a content creator because I would just write posts on Reddit and then like some of these would go viral and I was like,
Oh
"What?"
wow.
And then some of my like just talking about tech sales as a career and then I started interviewing like those people that were writing a lot of on Reddit sales,
Yeah,
and that's how I started podcasting because I would just have these conversations like you and I about tech sales and then like, dude, this is gold. I should record this. And then I started doing that. And stuff that I've written on Reddit like 8 years ago, people are still DMing me about. It's like, so shout
really.
out to Reddit. Yeah.
Reddit is actually how I ended up at Drata. Um, so
Huh.
one of my really good friends, who I met him in a Facebook group with my old business, and him and I both sold our businesses at the same time. And I called him to tell him about tech sales. He's like, "Bro, I'm already one step ahead of you." So he went on Reddit and he's like, "Are there any remote sales jobs?" And then someone from my company reached out to him, this is years ago, and
Huh.
then interviewed him. He got the job. He was loving it. And then he reached out to me and he was like, "Bro,
Uh,
like this is sick." And then I was like already applying for places, and I was like, "All right, I'll take a look at it." And he was one of my really good friends. So I was like, "Okay,
hmm.
I'll join you." So yeah, that's how I ended up there, literally from Reddit.
Dude, that's so crazy. So similar story, but the opposite. I basically without even knowing did all of my recruiting from Reddit. Like I would So people reached out to me because they saw how much I loved my job when I was working at Coach Hub, and I recruited 11 SDRs to one of my previous companies called Coach Hub through Reddit. People that were just pinging me. It's like, hey, like I saw that you said you were hiring, and like I would love an opportunity. I was like, yeah, sure. And then I ended up recruiting like 11 people like that I found through Reddit. Like ended up joining
Wow.
the company, and then we all like got to travel to Berlin and do all these amazing go to Vegas for all these conferences. And yeah, to your point, like it's tech sales, the earning potential is insane, dude. Like, and just like to be able to have the stability as well, right? Like, like a lot of digital nomads work in tech sales, and you, I had teammates that were making $1 million a year, and I'm like, wait, what? You can make, like when you grow poor, you're just like a million. Like that
Yeah.
seems so out of reach, but it's like almost every company I've worked at, I knew people on my, for these tech organizations that were making over 1 million, and I'm just like, what? But they also have mastered their craft, right? They're also really, really smart, and they probably would be successful no matter what they did. So I also don't want to normalize it like, hey, everyone's making $1 million, right? That's clearly not the
Yeah,
case.
but I mean, it Charlie Munger says it doesn't matter how hard you row if your boat sucks, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
So, like someone who's selling cell phones, no matter how much they've mastered their craft, they're not going to make seven figures on their W-2.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So,
sure.
it's mastering your craft in the right boat really has a massive impact. Like, what is your ceiling? What is your earning potential? How high can you go? And then, like, just go deep.
Yeah, and then I hate to say this, but you could be like a mediocre, like an average tech seller and make 300K, right? That's like what other profession is like you're average as hell and you're making 300K? Like that's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
It's
And if
like
you're smart, dude, and you put that money away, you can set yourself up very nice.
yeah, and then there's all these fringe benefits that people don't think about as well in tech sales, right? It's like you get to go to all these conferences for free. You have an expense account. You have world-class benefits and health insurance that, sometimes all the total rewards, like I calculated at LinkedIn when I worked there. Like, I mean, LinkedIn, I would say has world-class benefits, so not, I also want to normalize that not every company has as many. So it was $85,000 worth of benefits that I calculated.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I think my favorite benefit is the flexible PTO. That is amazing. It makes you want to
Yeah.
work harder and enjoy your life and take that time. There's some
Yeah.
companies that will literally give you 14 days a year. It's crazy. Like, I don't know why
Yeah.
anybody would want to go work there. 14 days a year to PTO to enjoy your life. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good gig, man. Um, I've been very blessed to have had like and the quality of people you meet as well, right? Now I would say I didn't even know I kind of took all that for granted as well. And then once I left like the corporate stuff and then just going about everyday life, I did this thing where I went up to like 1,000 random strangers, like start interviewing strangers in like New York City and all over.
Oh, wow.
and and let's just say the average person um is not making as much money as the average person in tech, right?
Oh,
So
100%.
yeah, so I was like, oh, I thought everyone has like a lake house and like you know what I mean, like a place in the Hamptons and all this stuff, and then like I go talk to random strangers and they're just like, yeah, I'm so happy. I got like I'm making the most money I ever did in my life, and I'm like, oh yeah, like what is that? They're like $65,000, and I'm like, dude, that's entry level SDR base salary. Like that's crazy. But they were so excited. They're like, yeah, I feel blessed. I'm like, God is good. And I'm just like, here I am bitching about like 240 OT and stuff like that, right? It's just, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
just funny.
Perspective. It's all perspective.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, no, you're a really interesting dude.
I appreciate
So
you.
so becoming a speaker, right? It sounds like your friend Juan, clearly he's mastered the craft. What does a typical path of a speaker look like? Because that is something that people don't really talk, at least not the average person would know much about that.
So, I mean, he's doing more of the professional route. So this is if you want to make a career in speaking, you have multiple ways. You can either um, sell from stage from someone. So like you work for like someone like a Tony Robbins and sell. That's a path that you can take. Another path that you can take is being a content creator and getting invited to speak and share your ideas on a stage. Or you could be a keynote speaker where all you do is speak, and that is where you would go and you would have to give free speeches. You'd have to build your resume or like your video reel. And then once you have like a really great highlight reel, it's how you prove to um, coordinators to book you. Like you can perform something really well. You put all your materials together, and then you just cold outreach like crazy, and then you book during a lot of these coordinators booking periods. You might have to start talking to high school students or maybe college students. Um, and maybe you go down the corporate route. You might need to find an agency. There's agencies that will book the gig and then place the speaker. So you might have to find different agencies and get booked by them. So there's a whole business side of it as well. It's really cool. Um, there's a lot of traveling that goes into it because you have to go travel to these conferences, speak, a lot of practice. You don't want to shit the bed on stage. So, you get rewarded for in public what you do repetitively in private. Um, so yeah, I mean that's kind of a very high level of that business. I've just watched my buddy go through it, and I mean he started with nothing for years, and then now he's reaping his rewards.
I had a friend that did the opposite route where I worked with him at Yelp and he was a sales manager and then he just started making a crap ton of content on like social media, like Instagram mostly. And
On
he just let
sales.
um communication, the art of communication,
Yeah.
which but his background is sales. Like he's just been in sales forever. And he got paid $16,000 to speak just for an hour to a bunch of lawyers, like one of the top law firms. And he told me that he's like, it's interesting. Some months you're making like $50,000 a month, and he's like, some months I literally will make like $2,000, right? So he's like, the highs are high and the lows are low, like being a professional speaker.
Yeah, you need to make sure that you book your calendars in a very smart way because a lot of these organizers will book for events a year in advance and you don't get paid until you do the event. So you have to stack your calendar in a smart way where you always have events coming up. Because if you wait for a specific month to book, then you might not have a few months until the next event. So it's really calendar management is a big thing there.
And so you worked for Tony Robbins. Like, how did you even come about that opportunity, or did he reach out to you?
No, fucking, I wish you reached out to me. A very long story. So the way I knew that that was a job was my uncle was dating this girl that was a speaker for Tony. So she was doing that. My uncle has a dealership. She came to try to do a speech for my uncle. And that's how they met. And then I met her when I was young, 12. And I was like, wow, that's so cool that you could do this. I was like, I want to do that. And then being in the environment for so many years, I found out the path, right? I had to go reach out to um, the guy that runs that team. And I was 18 years old. The moment I turned 18, I called him. I was like, I'm going to be your next best speaker. And he was like, don't call me again. And he hung up on me.
Huh.
Straight cold called him. And then I just called this guy every day for the next 10 months um,
Wow.
until he answered. So just be like, give me the job, give me the job, give me the job. And
Huh.
for 10 months,
Wow.
he's like, no. And I was like, man, what needs to happen in order for me to even get on your radar? He's like, well, you need speaking experience, you need sales experience. So then I went to go sell cars. It was the fastest job that I can get. Um, and I was selling cars out of Orlando, Florida. Absolutely killed it. My record was 64 cars in a month. Um, so I had the sales experience there. And then I was like, how do I set myself apart? One of my best friends was like, write a book. I was like, all right. So then I wrote a best-selling book on sales called Always Be Closing. So now I had a book, I had sales experience, and I was like, okay, what's the next thing? I was like, I gotta learn how to speak. So
Hmm.
then I found this mortgage company out of Orlando that was doing like selling from stage, real estate trainings. So I was like, I'll do it. And it was a very brutal job from Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. I was in 5 different states. And I would come home Friday night, have Saturday off, and leave Sunday. And it was just
Wow.
like, but I was pumping out speeches, getting speaking experience. I
Huh.
did that for like 6 months. And then once I did that, then I hit them up and I was like, I have this. Give me the fucking speech. Let's do it.
Dude, that's inspiring, man. That reminds me of have you heard of Rory Vaden?
Worry Vaden?
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
He helped Lewis Howes kind of like launch his business. He won like Toastmasters one of the years where he was like, you know how like
What's his
there's like
name?
the
Worry
net,
Vaden?
you know, RORI or RORY and then space VADEN. Sure, amazing speaker. Probably one of the best speakers that I've ever met as well in terms of yeah, he's just super talented. He's the guy that launched like Lisa and Tom Bilyeu's podcast and Lewis Howes and like he does, you know, he helped like Ed Milet and like a lot
Wow.
of yeah, a lot of people. He's pretty like he's a really good speaker, but he to get his a New York Times best-selling book, he called the publisher. Yeah, I think like what you did every day for 1.5 years. And then
Wow.
eventually, yeah, and then eventually he just flew there to the publishing place, and they're like, dude, like she's not even here. Like the head publicist wasn't. So he's like, okay, well, I'm here. Like, help me out here. They're like, all right, send your book, and then they revised the book and like sent it back to him with all the like the red lines, and then still he is like he kept reaching out, and in another 6 months they didn't reach like they didn't get back to him, and then so he did it for so 2 total years, and then finally it worked, and then that's how he got a New York Times best-selling book. But it's great.
Perseverance, man.
Yeah,
Perseverance.
yeah, I respect that. Man, so many takeaways, bro. So all right. So what I'm hearing is, you know, obviously take action, resilience, being able to surround yourself with quality people. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Um, not being afraid to like fail fast sounds like is also a theme I'm hearing. And yeah, and flexibility and also like optimizing for like autonomy slash flexibility and freedom and having work-life balance is important as well. So you're not like burning, you're not burning out essentially.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's accurate. I like the summarization there.
Cool, brother. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm grilling you with questions. Anything else you want to add, or anything else you want to ask me or talk about before we
Um, I think even this conversation right here is a great example of why it's important to go out, meet amazing people, and then from amazing people you meet amazing people, and vice versa.
Hmm.
Like I met Davidson from a friend that I met at an event. So it's just like go out, meet people, and see who they make sure they're quality, and then see who they hang out with, and then just meet as many people as possible, and then you get to have awesome conversations. I'm all
Yeah,
about the conversations. I chase the relationships.
that's a good reminder. Yeah, yesterday, the yesterday was a perfect example of that. You know the guy Bob Berg, he wrote the book Go Giver.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he spoke at Provisors, which I joined that I met through a guy named Aaron Holtz that I met through BNI that he got me to join his BNI that I met.
BNI.
Yeah, like basically I was able to listen to Bob Berg and he was just dropping pure gold for like an hour yesterday. And I'm just like, wow, I can't believe this happened. And to your point, it was like a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. And then here I am listening to Bob Berg with one of my favorite books of all time called The Go Giver. And all, I mean, all the Go Giver series, like I absolutely love. But it's just like, oh, that's cool, right? So networking is it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm glad we met. I'm glad we did this live.
Yeah, brother. So yeah, so you see his LinkedIn, so reach out. I'll connect the link. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to reach out or if something resonated with them?
Instagram or LinkedIn.
Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, Instagram or LinkedIn. LinkedIn probably. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. I work from LinkedIn, so definitely hit me on LinkedIn, um, or Instagram. Uh, is that is that a YouTube play button?
Yeah, brother.
Do you have a YouTube channel
Yeah, man. I've been grinding, bro. I've been live streaming like every day, almost every day.
on YouTube?
Yeah.
For how long?
Dude, I've been working on this channel for 6 years. To your point, like just
Holy
grinding,
shit.
grinding away like 3,000 videos,
3,000. Yo, I actually just learned from Ali Abdal. Um, God, is this you? Oh shit, this is legit. Wow, bro. Holy crap, that's insane.
Yeah,
Wow,
man.
that's awesome, bro. This is literally the epitome of like grinding it out, heads down, being consistent, taking just not taking the answer no. Oh wow, you're doing that's so cool, dude.
Yeah, man.
6 years?
Yeah, yeah, I've been grinding away, man. Just like similar with LinkedIn. I got up to like 19,000 followers just because like every day I would just post content pretty much. And then, you get like one new follow, like even with my newsletter, I got up to like 2,100 and something because like every day I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna keep adding value. And then the newsletter kept growing. So yeah, man, I'm trying to hustle like everyone else, right? Just trying to make it happen here over here.
Dude, that is awesome, bro. I love that, man. That's so cool. I think I saw something that was like the average channel that has over 1 million subscribers. I actually have the screenshot right here. So the channel on YouTube then that has 1 million subscribers, they have a total of, let me grab this really quick, 3,873 videos on average.
Damn, that's wild. Holy shit. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Yeah,
that's
it goes
wild.
back to your speaking point, right? I wanted to get better at podcast, like being a guest on podcasts. So this year I've been interviewed on like 64 different podcasts, and it's just so much fun. And you're like, oh, that's how you get better, right? You just keep doing it. And at every podcast you get like 1% better, 1% better. And then eventually you're like, all right, I think I'm getting good at this thing.
Wow, that's awesome, bro. I love that, man. I'm making content down in on Instagram, and I've been like thinking around also potentially making content on YouTube. But I know YouTube is like such a long game. But from what I've been hearing from a lot of people, is like YouTube is the king. If you kill YouTube and crush YouTube, it kind of like makes everything else easier.
Yeah.
Easier.
YouTube is also the hardest, I would say
Yeah.
as well. It's just there's so many talented people on YouTube. But yeah, I agree. I would say it's still the strongest. I'm trying to play the LinkedIn Live game because I do think LinkedIn is like trying to promote that because I used to work at LinkedIn, so I'm always like hearing what's going on inside. But yeah, as of right now, YouTube is for sure like the king. And it's just yeah, and you can make so much money as well, right? Ali Abdal made, and now he stopped because he's like, all right, now I'm kind of, it's getting dangerous for like I might get kidnapped, and you know what I mean. But when he was very open about how much money he was making, I'm like, what? Like, even the top tech sellers that are selling Microsoft Azure, which is one of the most lucrative products, or selling AWS, like aren't even making that type of money that Ali Abdallah is making. So yeah, the ceiling's just insane.
That's the power of having a product as well with it. Was that all just from his ad spend or like from his ad revenue, or was it from product sales as well?
So AdSense gave him about $680,000. His course, which the part that's the one that I'm a part of his community, he charged 5,000 for that for a year, made 1.65 million from that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and he has no overhead, no quota. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure he has a team, so he has that overhead, but it's
Right.
like
But the team, it's
he
like,
can,
dude, he's paying them 40, 50,000 bucks a piece. Like it's not because I know because I asked them like how much, but they're learning a lot from him and he treats them well and it's flexible. Like they can work out of any country and it's chill. And then he makes about 680K just from affiliates. Like it's crazy. And then
that's
and
insane.
and then he makes courses on Skillshare, and he even though he made this course like 8 years ago, he makes roughly $2,000 or $3,000 a month just from a course he made 6 years ago from Skillshare. Like just insane.
Info
Like
products, man. That's the way to do
yeah,
it. I'm
yeah.
being an infopreneur, I think is definitely um just the best, but I mean, the lifestyle is hard. Not the lifestyle is hard. Like the way to get there is a steep climb.
Yeah. I think that's the game that I'm trying to play. That's why I'm like learning from all these like info folks. But yeah, it's tough. And because I sold LinkedIn Learning and I sold when I worked at Udemy, the top content creators on Udemy. Are you familiar with Udemy?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the top Udemy course instructors are making like 1.2 to 1.3 million dollars just from Udemy. Like that's excluding out the stuff that they do outside of that platform.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's insane.
yeah. So
Wow.
definitely a lot of ways to make money out there. But all
Um,
right, brother.
I
Well,
yeah, I can't wait to go down your YouTube.
yeah, man. Well, yeah, let's stay in touch. Give Kit I said give Nick a kiss for me, but you know, tell him I said what's up and excited to listen to your podcast, man.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, dude.